Disclaimer, none of the footage used in this video belongs to me. I did film almost 10 hours worth of footage, but unfortunately, due to an error, none of it will be usable. This is gonna be the worst episode of 1 week later I've ever done, but on the bright side, now that I know about the error, this should never happen again. Regardless of the circumstances, please enjoy the review anyways. Good afternoon, gamers. While first impressions MMO reviews are nice, I think the real question is an MMO still fun after a week? This week our subject of study is a little game called HeroWarz. HeroWarz is an isometric beat-em-up similar to games like Diablo. The game's main selling point is its anime art style and its pretty memorable characters. It was developed by COG Games, and for those who don't know what COG Games is, you might know them a little better as the creators of a little game called Elsword. Now, I'm not the hugest fan of Elsword, I was more of a Grand Chase guy myself, but I did have the great opportunity to play this game while I was at Anime Expo. I never did mess around in the open beta, but when the game came out, I finally gave it a shot. After a week with the game, is it still worth playing? Let's find out. The first thing I should probably comment on is the story. Now, I've never really had a strong feeling of story for MMOs. Like, I am a story gamer, but it feels a little disingenuous to be trying to solve a problem in the same space that a bunch of other players are also solving that problem. And I've always thought MMOs are more like I should be creating my own story. From what I can gather, there's this chick who has some kind of artifact, and it's making it so that when she's asleep, she can control things in the real world or something. I'm not really sure. I will say, though, I do think the graphics in the cutscenes are very visually interesting and beautiful. This is, in my opinion, in stark contrast to the visuals of the game itself. Now, I'm not gonna say that the game is ugly, because by no means is it ugly. It's a very passable game. It just doesn't really live up to the rest of the visuals, in my opinion. Like, it definitely doesn't look quite as pretty as I would have expected it to, given the level of detail given to the story cutscenes and the anime trailer. For those who don't know much about the style of game, it's movement with WASD or point and click if you just don't want to deal with good gameplay, and you have basic attacks and skills like any other MMO, it's just the perspective is a little different and there's no tab targeting. Instead of creating your own character, you have a list of characters to choose from. I personally chose Audrey, the girl that you're looking at right now, because she's the character that I played during Anime Expo, and I just really like the way she looks, and I thought a ranged character would be more fun for this style of gameplay. Audrey's thing is she switches between different kinds of guns, so she starts out with like a machine gun, and then you can go into kind of like a shotgun, a flamethrower, she has a bazooka launcher, all kinds of really fun stuff. After playing as all the characters, she's still the character I had the most fun with. It's really nice to have a character where positioning matters, and your distance matters, and you're trying to stay as far away from the enemies as possible. One other thing I'd like to comment on is there is a lot of skills in this game, like a lot. You'll be pushing the keyboard constantly. This was kind of a problem for me because it felt like to keep your max damage up, you kind of had to keep all of your skills on cooldown, and there are just so many skills that you have to keep track of. If you're somebody who doesn't really mind keeping their eyes on the hotbar and keeping all of their skills on cooldown, then this won't be a problem for you at all. In fact, you'll be rewarded by having maximum damage output. Audrey in particular doesn't really use her mana very much, so it's very, very important that you constantly keep your skills on cooldown. A lot of other characters do use mana a lot, which is the main way that you cast spells in this game. And with them it might be a little less important, but with a character like Audrey, you definitely want to be pushing those numbers a lot. This game is mainly PvE oriented. You're going to be going through quests, dungeons, a lot of things like that, and you'll mainly be playing with other players, but you can choose to turn other players off if you don't really want them, messing with your kills, taking loot, I guess, or if you just don't want them dropping your frame rate. Personally, I played in private just to keep my frame rate up, but it is a little bit less fun without other people around, because when there's other people around, you're actually competing to see who can deal the most damage to enemies. It's a small ranking feature, but a little bit of competition like that can go a long way in a game's longevity. There's not really too much else to the combat and the PvE, so I'd like to go over my experiences with the other characters. First up is Mary. Now, Mary is my second favorite character. I didn't think I'd like her that much because her main thing is grappling, But it turns out that the grappling is actually very satisfying in this game. Instead of just hitting enemies constantly over and over again, it's actually really cool to be able to manipulate the enemies in some way, like picking them up and throwing them. Her main weapon is a gigantic tonfa, but you're gonna find that it's more fun to just kind of use all of your throwing skills to just toss all the enemies around. Another neat thing about grappling in this game is whenever you use a grappling skill to grab a boss, you just pull out a silhouette of the boss, do it on the silhouette, and then the boss takes damage still. This was a very clever idea because it still makes it so that you're relevant and they don't have bosses where your skills just can't grapple them, but it's still not breaking the flow of gameplay for the other people that are playing with you. Next up is Derek, who fights with a giant shield, and I don't know if it's just the way he's built or what, but I feel like Derek's really overpowered. Like, it's not fun to play as him, he's actually incredibly fun to play as, but I figured having a giant shield would mean he was more of a defensive character. No, he's one of the most aggressive characters in the game, and he has very high defenses. He's fast, he's strong, he's hard to kill, he can grapple like Mary can, but he's also got other really nice striking moves. This game goes more from a Diablo-style game to a Dynasty Warriors game because you just feel so much more powerful than anything around you. Highly recommended if you feel unconfident in your gaming skill or if you just want a really easy character to pick up and play. Next up is Jerry, or Little Slugger if you're a complete anime weeb like I am. Jerry fights with a baseball bat, and most of her skills are sports-related in some way. I loved Jerry. She's probably the most unique character that I played as. She's fast, she's aggressive, she looks very nice. I mean, is that not just the most delicious character selection idle screen you've ever seen? And overall, she was just an absolute blast to play as. Next up is Ari, the resident lolly. She mainly fights with a water gun, and you would think that her being the adorable character she is, that she would be my main, but honestly, she's just not quite as fun of a ranged character as I find Audrey is. She's still pretty interesting, and her attacks are probably a lot more unique than Audrey's are. So if you want to play a ranged character but you want flavor and uniqueness, then she's probably the character that you're going to want to gravitate towards. Now, B is the character that nobody is going to be able to resist playing as. He's by far the coolest character in the game. He's got this awesome sort of demon persona about him. He looks like just a regular guy in a shirt, but he's got two swords. He's got this really awesome demonic mask that he wears, and he's put front and center in most of the advertising. Now, what you see is what you get with him. He is a very fast, very fluid character. It doesn't really feel like he's dealing that much damage, but he does seem like a pretty well-balanced character. My main problem with B is he feels very button-mashy, like, really, this guy's not showing it here, but you could really just right-click your way through all these enemies, and you'll be seeing that spinning animation a lot. Even though he looks fancy, there's not really a whole lot of finesse in playing B. You can just kind of mash all the buttons and get through all the stages. But that does make him another really easy character, so if you see him and you think he just looks really cool, and you just want an easy character to go through the game with, maybe enjoy the story a little bit, then he's definitely one of the characters you should look at. But if you're looking for a challenge, you should probably just stay away from him. He's not challenging to play as at all. Hades is another character that visually is very impressive. She fights with a sort of ball and chain, similar to Rem if you're watching ReZero and Rem is your waifu. You can sort of live out your fantasies through Hades. She also has very awesome chain sort of based attacks. She's a melee character, but she fights at mid-range because of her weapon. And she's also a little more fragile than some of the melee characters, so she's almost like a mix of ranged and melee at the same time. She's probably most well known for her AoE, like, characters just can't even get close to her because all of her attacks have a really wide arc, and it's really hard for any of the enemies to actually approach you if you're playing her correctly. That being said, I felt like she was kind of boring too. Like, I feel like her playstyle definitely doesn't live up to how cool the character is. The last character we need to talk about is Nagne. Nagne sucks. I'm sorry. Like, there's probably some Nagne mains out there who are going to tell me just how amazing they're doing with Nagne and how good of a character Nagne is, but Nagne is just so boring. There's nothing cool about him at all. Nagne's sort of this androgynous, white-haired swordsman with a super long sword that fights with the sword and the sheath, and like, it's a really cool concept, and it seems like it could have been a cool character, but I just don't feel like I'm doing anything when I'm playing as Nagne, at least not anything cool. Like, yeah, I'm pushing buttons and characters are dying, but like, I don't feel like there's any finesse behind what I'm doing. I don't really feel like I have a goal or like anything I'm trying to set up. You just kind of push buttons and health bars go down. There's also some crap story about how he loves chocolate pie or something. I don't know. I feel like they tried to overcompensate with how boring the character is by trying to give him something really wacky and zany and random like loving chocolate pies. Just don't play Nagne. Nagne is not a fun character to go through the game as. If you like Nagne, you're wrong. Just pick up another melee character. Even B is better than Nagne. The last bit of gameplay I want to talk about is the PvP. Now, to preface this, I didn't get a chance to try out the PvP myself, but after playing through the game, getting up to level, I think, 25, I do understand why people love the PvP so much. Like, I can see how the gameplay of the game in PvE can translate into PvP, and it seems like it would mesh really well. From what I can see, it looks a little bit Dominion-y if you happen to play League of Legends. But since this game isn't point and click, unless you switch it to point and click because you don't like good gameplay, I don't see why this wouldn't work better than something like Dominion, because I feel like the whole Diablo style is better than the RuneScape style for PvP, in my opinion. There's nothing wrong with League of Legends, I love League of Legends, and I don't think this game comes even close to what League of Legends brought to the table, but I do think that the PvP element is going to be what keeps this game alive. Like, yeah, it's fun to go and kill a horde of monsters with your friends, but for the most part, the PvP arena seems like where the action is going to be. My prediction is the PvP aspect isn't going to be super huge. It's not going to be a huge community of people like League of Legends, but at the same time, some people are going to get weeded out, and it's going to be a smaller community, maybe 10, 20,000 really hardcore players, but it's going to be a lot tighter because of it. If you play this game, PvP is what I think you should aim for. Let's start winding this thing down. I've been talking for like 12 minutes now. I do think that the game is very good. It's probably not a game that I'm going to continue playing after this week, but that's just because I'm not really into the whole Diablo style as much as other games. I might come back and check this game out in a couple of months to see what the PvP community has grown like, because, like I said before, I do think PvP is where it's going to be at with this game. While I don't think the gameplay is necessarily anything groundbreaking or they're bringing anything super new to the table, I do think that the style and that the unique characters, except for Nagne, are going to be enough to keep people entranced in this game. In fact, there's new characters coming out all the time, like Izanami's coming out pretty soon, and I didn't even get a chance to see them. If you're going to get into this game yourself, I recommend two things. One, don't get into it alone. Going through the PvE stuff by yourself is okay, but it gets boring after a while. You're going to want another person there to not only help it go faster, but to sort of compete with. Like, it's really fun to see who can actually kill the most enemies or get the most damage. And second, I recommend focusing mainly on the PvP, because I think the PvP in this game looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. This game is very recommended if you are somebody who played like League of Legends or Dota and you're looking for something to hop onto and you haven't played a Diablo style game before. I will say that this game is not recommended if you are by yourself or if a PvE style game is mainly what you're looking for. I also don't recommend it if the Dominion style isn't something that you had a lot of fun with when you played League of Legends. Because if you can't get into PvP, I don't see how you could stay interested in this game for very long. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like. Those things really do help us out. If you have any suggestions on what game I should look at next, or comments on HeroWarz, then hit me up in the comments section below. And finally, subscribe to stay up to date on the latest Kudou news. I'm sorry about the footage thing, guys. Hopefully this kind of thing won't happen again. I will of course put a link to the game in the description below along with my name, and I might just see you guys next week for another 1 week later. Until then, gamers.